Okay, we are live. Welcome back to Getting Real, the show where we cut through the noise and get straight to the truth about building wealth through real estate. I'm your host, Monick Halm, and today I am so excited to have with me an incredible powerhouse guest, Katie Kim. Katie is a game changer in real estate development. She doesn't just build projects, she builds legacies. She's an expert in structuring deals that creates both serious financial success and meaningful community impact. If you've been waiting for the perfect moment to level up your real estate game, this is it. We're diving into big picture thinking, smart investing, and how to use real estate as a tool for massive transformation. We're not going to want to miss a second of this conversation. Let's go. Katie, I'm so excited you're here. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to kick this off. I'm pumped. I'm ready.
Good. Yay. Well, I want to start with your origin story because let's be real, nobody wakes up one day and says, I'm going to be a successful real estate developer. Or maybe you did. I don't know. But take us back. What first got you into this?
Yeah, so I grew up in a construction real estate development family, and I was really to my parents' chagrin. I say I was a victim of child labor law. I'd go to soccer practice and then go, build a house or volleyball and pour concrete. And so I grew up in it, and like a lot of the a lot of the kids that grow up in family businesses, you go away to college, you don't want anything to do with the family business. And I went into technology, and I went to start to work with technology and put it in firms that were, 3 to 5 years to market, find strategic, profitable solutions, and then implement them. And I absolutely loved it. I loved going into these companies and figuring out like where were they not aligned, where was their strategy and edge. But then I was traveling every single week, and I was a slave to the corporation. And then I went to work for a startup thinking that would be different. And when our startup got bought out by a big corporation, I was like, what's my next step, right? I'm not feeling fulfilled. I think we all go through that point where we've mastered our craft, we've got far in our career, but we're not really fulfilled. There's something else, and we're not living our best lives. And so, really, kind of internalized. My parents at the time said, "Have you ever thought about coming home and running the family business?" I said, "No, never. I did never wanted to leave Chicago." And but as I started to search, I was like, I really like real estate. I started investing in real estate in Chicago as soon as I graduated from college. Bought my first condo. The next year, bought another, and really, my husband and I talked about it. I was like, we want to learn the development side of it. We want to learn how to really build wealth and transform places and spaces. And so we made the deal with my parents to teach us the development side. We moved a little bit further downstate, Illinois, and took over the family construction company for about 10 years. And I realized I loved it, but there was still something missing, and I still was not fulfilled. And there were so many small businesses coming into our offices, or aspiring developers, and say like, I want to do this, I want to learn how to do it, but they don't know how, and they don't know where to start. And so we launched our developer for fee service, where we teach business owners and aspiring developers, real estate investors, how to do development from beginning to end. And that to me that was it. That was a fulfillment. That was a game changer, where you can help somebody with a business that's rented since 1861 buy a building that's 3 times the space that the business needs, and really 6 times the space so it can grow into it and have other revenue streams. That's a game changer. And then you start to look at the impact it makes in the community, where that development right there, you had $15 million of ripple effect construction in 2 years, and 35 and 4 years after that project. I was hooked. And so I relaunched the Kim Group with our professional service, for with our professional service, sorry, developer for fee. And I just leaned into it, and it was amazing. I was fulfilled. I was helping businesses and small investors grow. And there's nothing like having impact and being in alignment. And most recently, I've taken that up another level, because God was putting it on my heart to help more. And we launched our Real Estate Development Academy, where we have a course and a community. So we put that context around the content. and help people really make their developments more efficient, help them start them, and really get out of the mindset that we get caught in a lot of times. So,
I love that.
yeah.
That's so great. Um, and when you just a follow-up question. So you had this, you're realizing that something wasn't quite it.
Mm.
Do you think was there a mentor, a book, or experience that helped you shift your mindset into that?
Yeah, so there's tons. Once I got out of my head of what was wrong, so I go back to this what I call the time, talent, and treasure triangle. So where at each point you have time, talent, and treasure, and at any point in time you only have so much of each one of those, and really leveraging that to be the strength of, are you in alignment or not? And I realized that I wanted to build financial wealth. I wanted to build generational wealth, but I didn't at the time have a lot of treasure. I had, some time because I just started a family and I had young kids on the underfoot, if you will. But I only had certain limits, right? And so my coach at the time, which I believe in my craft, right? I have a coach and believe in coaching. He basically said, well, if you're not getting fed what you want, how are you going to learn how to do this? Are you just going to sit in a corner and watch everybody else do it? And I was like, no. He goes, so go out and start talking to people that are doing it and ask them how they did it. And there were so many mentors along the way that because I went out and asked and I started building up that network of people that do it. And I really am, passionate about your network is your net worth. And so when you put yourself in different rooms, when you start to ask the question for help, it's a game changer in your growth. And that really just took me to the next level because I was in a community where the projects weren't penciling easily. So I started to become a student of economic incentives and how do you bring those into the game and how do you make a good project better because you have those involved in it. And that's really what we need right now to bridge that gap of in the finances of a lot of the projects. But it was what we needed for our community to make them work.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get tactical. If you see a
Okay.
deal, what's going through your mind? What's the checklist that tells you, yes, this is worth it?
Yeah, so usually when a deal comes to me, the first thing I look at is really adjacency. Where is it located? What's going on in the community around it? And then I look next at the floor plan. I think people really overlook that. So yes, adjacency to see like what kind of mix, but then what's the building telling us it could be or should be? And then how much cost we're going to get into it. And then I go into where's my economic incentives? Like, what can I bring into this project to sweeten the deal? How do we make it better? And then have a ripple effect into that community. Because I'm a big believer of you do not want to develop in a silo. You want to have a rising tide lifts all boats. And so
Mhm.
if I can come into a community and make a great project better by having that adjacency and bring in the community's needs into it, I'm always going to be looking for that angle.
I love that. So what I heard is the first is location, location, location.
Location, location, location.
Location,
Always.
location. And then looking at what's the highest and best use for this particular property. Like, what is it
Yeah.
like and what could it be? And then also it sounds like you have what we are real estate investor guys have as a mission, which is to leave a property in a community better than we found it. So
Yes.
how can
Yeah.
we do?
Yeah. We actually, right before our call, I had a meeting with my team on this project we're doing in the Texas Triangle. And we know what the city wants us to do, but we know where the community's at. And so I said, we got to phase this, guys. We cannot come in with this massive project. One, it's not going to fit, it's not going to work, and it's not going to be where the community can meet us at. And that's a big thing in development is meet the community where they're at, and then kind of level it up.
Hmm. Wait, say that again because I think what you said is so important.
Yeah, so you want to meet the community where they're at, like exactly where they're at, but then level it up, right? Like you mentioned, leave it better than we found it. How do you look for those gaps in the community, and you can easily massage the project to start to benefit and value add that. Where, for example, there was one community we went into, they had a gas station at the end of their downtown of restaurants and bars and boutiques. And they're like, this guy won't sell. Katie, how do we get him up? And so we put together a couple plans for the city to acquire the property and then make it attractive to developers. And today we were blessed to have a client that then wanted to develop it about a year later. And we went in and made it seamless with the downtown in terms of the architecture, but then kind of leveled it up a little bit. We did the first rooftop bar on the building. So again, kind of just took it up a little bit, but met it. So I mean, it, figuratively and literally with where the community's at.
Love that. Okay, so let's talk about the number one excuse I hear all the time, which is, I'd love to invest, but I don't have the money. So
Yeah.
I know that you've helped get some creative deals happen. How do you deal with financing when maybe the treasurer is not there or the bank says no? What do you do?
Yeah. Every project's different, right? Is when we go into it. But there's a lot of opportunity for people to acquire property with no money in, no money down. And I know everybody's going to say it takes money. It does take money. I'm not saying it does not take money, but depending on how the opportunity you go into real estate, again, going back to that time, talent, treasure triangle, is do you bring people in to help you with the cash part, with the loan liability part? You know, there's some properties in our communities right now that the government owns. So like your city will own property that they want to get back on the tax roll. And you can go and ask them to buy that property for $1 or $10, and you may not even know it. And a lot of the GIS programs right now, you can easily go online.
Info?
So the government, I think it's government info. I have to look that up for you. I always just call it GIS. I think it's a government information system where it's the mapping system of like the different layers of information that the government has. Mm-hmm. So where it can tell you what's the zoning of a property, it can tell you where, usually it doesn't have the water, but it'll have like sanitary, it'll have electrical, it'll have if there's any overlay districts, it'll have if there's an enterprise zone, if there's a TIF district, any of the economic incentive zones and areas, it'll have that. So, and it'll also be able to tell you who owns the property. So you can go to your city and say, okay, what are the ownership entities of our city that I can look and see, you know, on this software that you own. And I wasn't aware of it when I first started developing. However, I went to talk with my EDC and my assistant city manager, and I had a company that wanted to go into our warehouse district. And I said, what do we have available from city property that I can kind of work with private property and get this deal across the table? And he goes, let's see, pulls up his GIS, which usually there's a free one for the public usually, which has less layers. Then there's a government side that has more layers. And so he pulled it up and he goes, you can have any of these. We'll work with you on any of these properties. I'm like, wait a second, you guys own 2 whole blocks in this area? And they said, yeah, we're land banking it for a big opportunity like this. And that was a game changer. If you go on those sites, they had, I think at the time, 223 sites that they would be able to sell or negotiate with you for development, where you could pick them up for $1 or $10 or you know, you have to negotiate with your city.
Yeah.
Nominal. And a lot of it they got back through, you know, demolitions or liens or some kind of issue, but they want it back on the tax roll. So it's to their benefit and your benefit. And those are easy ones to go into. The gas station that I talked about, we were able to, and this is a project we did for a client, we did developer for fee. We were able to negotiate that property for no initial outlay of cash for that property in a targeted part of downtown. Like those are the types of opportunities that are out there. if you know how to look for them, and or know how to have somebody on your team that knows how to look for them and put them together. But those are the ones that are usually going to be the game changers in your community, because they're the eyesores or they're the issues in your community that you can level them up. And a lot of times the government will give you incentives to go ahead and do those developments that a lot of people don't know about.
Incredible.
Mm.
Okay. I love that. And I'm still blunt. I was like, wow, there's all this land.
You're Googling your site right now.
Pennies on the dollar or less than that, really. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah. Well, and there's also, I always say follow the money. If you ever want to understand why something is the way it is, follow the money. So if you also look at the incentives in your city, and a lot of times people will say, well, how do you find out about it? One, I would say work with somebody that's worked with them before, because I could tell you about the programs. You can go in and talk to the EDC, and I'm going to say it's like the level one learning. It's kind of where you go to WebMD to type in your symptoms, right? And all of a sudden now you're like almost dying,
And
right?
and moving back again, because you've used this term a couple times.
Yeah.
EDC, what does that mean? What does that
Oh,
stand
sorry. Your Economic Development Council or Economic Development Committee. So
for? Okay.
they are the group within usually there's a city, county, and state, and sometimes it's a multi-county EDC office. And their sole focus is to improve the number of jobs in the area, it's improve the quality of life. It's really to focus on that economic development in that area. So you usually, again, have a city, maybe a county, and then a statewide one. And they're looking to bring businesses into the community. They're looking to improve jobs, quality of life. So they want to know what you're working on, and you want to know what they're working on, because you want to be able to see if there's any synergy, or what I call pollinated collisions, that you can
Mhm.
exchange information with. And they are key to amazing hidden opportunities.
Love that. So that's
Yeah.
so great. Um, okay. How do you build a long-term strategy that doesn't just look good on paper, but actually works in real life?
Yes. So I
Yeah.
work a lot with our business owners that a lot of times they'll come to me with the perfect property, and their business will be needing to expand. And so then the property doesn't work out, they're heartbroken. That is the whole point when you say you need to build a strategy and a plan that not only looks good on paper, but is executed or executable, right? Where you can go in and say, my business is going to, and your business could be real estate investing, right? You could 5x, 10x, and this is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to stay in alignment, and, have that strategy that's 30,000 feet above. But then you need to, what we call like a 4-3-1. You need to really bring it down into, for the 4 quarters of the year, what are you going to do each month? That's your 3. And then what are you going to start to do each week? That's your 1. And you need to take your big business plan and the strategy and get it down into daily tasks that are on your calendar, that are time blocked. We don't ever want to hear that, right? But that a time block, and that you're holding yourself accountable to, because it's that compound effect that's going to get you there. And I can tell you, my first plan, it was a 5-year plan. We hit it little less than 2 years, and we had to go back to the drawing board all again. But if you don't, then you start to work in your business versus on your business. And
Yeah.
then your strategy is not executable because you're reacting, and you don't have that North Star to guide your strategy and your ship. So really, if you meet that strategy, the other part is make another one, right? Like, what's the next step? How are you leveling up? Where are you going? And then who do you need? One of the exercises I do when we talk with strategy is I have people go through the growth party invitation. And I put it on my YouTube page because so many of my coaching clients were like, can we do that again? I'm like, yeah, here you go. So you can find it there, but it walks through when you're looking to grow yourself, who, what, where, when, and why. are you doing this? And what are all those components that need to be in place? What are you bringing to the party, right? What do you, because you have to come present, right? You have to become engaged. You can't just let growth happen to you. I mean, you can, but you're not going to be structured. You're not going to be sustainable.
Yeah.
So really look, those are my key components on making that strategy that's going to last.
I love that. Okay. Let's say that again. So this growth, this video that's on YouTube, what it's like, and say that, like, I want to make sure, because I think this is so good, and this is something that I do with my goddesses in the program. Well, we first start with our roadmap, like what's our big goal, and then we have these quarterly mini retreats where we go through and we're like, okay, here's what we're going to do the next 3 months, right? Exactly like you're doing. Then how do we break that up into, like, and when we're to get there by the end of this quarter, what do we need to do this month, this month, this month? What do we need to do each week? What do we need to do every day towards that? But also, what are the habits that we need to have that kind of, like, lead us to have that? So we do that, and it's so valuable. But I love the way you broke it down and framed it. So share that again, those questions, and where people can go to find it.
Yeah. So so the YouTube page, and I'll give you the links. You can put it in there directly. But our YouTube channel is the Katie Kim, so it's pretty easy to find, and it's right on there. And it's the invitation to the growth party. So you think about, like, when we're I'm going to say like 5, 6 years old, right? Your parents fill out the invitation to your birthday party, right? So it's, who is it for? Where is it happening? Is this something that you're needing to do in your own town? Is this something you're investing in other areas? Is this, again, where is it really happening? And then so you have who, where, what are you going to accomplish? What does it look like? What do you need to have around you to be able to take that next step? And so who, where, what, when. Is there a certain deadline you need to have this by? And usually when people think of a deadline, they think of, I want, this by this date, da da da. Okay, then you have to evaluate the reps that you need to do. Like when you're just talking about those daily habits, right? So there's the rule of 300 to 3,000. You have to do 300 reps of a task to be able to understand it. You have to do 3,000 reps of a task to master it. And so it's a rep game, right? We know when you run numbers on a property, it's a rep game. And so you have the who, where, what, when, why. And the why is usually going to be one everybody thinks they know. And I know you're smiling because you know this. You think you know the why, but that's not really the why that's going to move you to do those daily tasks every single day. And that goes back to, I like to dig in. Have you ever read Good to Great? One of the books? Yeah. So they mentioned the hedgehog concept in there. Do you remember that? Like, first I was thinking, I'm like, this is so simple, but it's so hard to put in place. So for your listeners, the hedgehog concept is every day in the woods, the fox goes out and it sees the hedgehog, is like, oh, it's conniving, I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna jump on it, I'm gonna capture it. And every time the hedgehog's like, oh, here we go again, and just rolls up in a ball. One simple move, rolls up in a ball, holds it. In the meantime, the fox is batting it around and beating it on the rocks and everything, trying to open it, gets tired, and then moves along. And the hedgehog lives another day. And so it's, what is the one thing that you're focusing on each and every day that you can do with simplicity and with not a lot of energy that will then compound and build you up to that bigger goal, right? And that is what I know. I've seen some of your retreats and they look amazing. And you have those life-changing transformation where it's like, I just got to focus. I just got to be in alignment. And when you can focus and be in alignment and you have your goals in front of you, there's nothing you can't do. Especially when you're getting in the room with a bunch of powerful individuals and people that are already a level or two above you. That's where your magic happens.
I love that. Oh, it's good to be reminded about that hedgehog. and the simple things and the one thing and the why. I always say like your why needs to be bigger than your excuses
Mm,
because if you don't, you need like that really powerful why that's so compelling that just gets you to show up to those reps. So
yeah. Well, and the why, I always love people to tell other people their why and tell it because if you hear yourself say it enough, you're going to start to believe it, and that's what you need to digest it, right? And when you're talking about going through with your goddesses is their plan, sometimes when we tell our why, we don't believe it, and it's not really in alignment, and so you have to have those others hold us accountable.
yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
I love that alignment piece too. Um, when we talk about SMART goals, but I don't like the A achievable because I think
Okay.
anything is achievable. It's just like if you can imagine it, you can achieve it. So I change out that A for aligned. So is
Oh,
this goal aligned with your bigger vision, with who you want to be, with what if you believe in a higher power, what your higher power wants you to be? Like, is that aligned with your identity, with everything? Achievable, we can achieve anything,
well,
but,
and
but aligned.
I
Yeah.
love when you say that because that's where I think we get out of alignment is because when people give us a goal or you should do, I hate that word, like you
Yeah.
should do
Stop
this or
shitting
you,
all over yourself.
oh, you should it all over yourself. Yes. Or you could do this. It's like, yeah, I could, but I should not do that, right? Because it's not an alignment. It's not gonna make me
Yes.
double down, right? And
Yeah.
oh yeah, the shit all over yourself. Oh man, that's a
Yeah. The shoulds.
dangerous zone. Mm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't. And achievable makes you think so small, I find. Um, because it's like
Well,
what you think you can do and what you actually can do is can be so different. Sometimes we can accomplish things that we didn't even that are just like way beyond, right? We can quantum leap, but
okay.
aligned. Yeah.
Well, and somebody told me one time if you tell somebody your goal and they don't laugh, it's not big enough.
Mm.
So I literally changed my goal, I think about 5 times in a year. Like the time kept coming back lower. Like what I wanted. I was like, okay, I'm good at this this time frame now. But it's and also it's sharing that and putting it out into the world, right? And not playing small and showing up for each
Yeah.
other. That's
Yeah.
you know.
So good. Um, all right. Before we start recording, I was telling you I was going to ask you this question, and you're like, I
Hmm.
don't know, where do I start? So, what would you say is the biggest mistake you've made, and what did you learn from it?
So the biggest mistake I made was entering into real estate without getting educated first. So I grew up in it. I grew up around it, but really not understanding the financial side of it. And I got burned on a deal. We actually ended up having to short sale it back in 08, 09. And from that one deal, made me get my real estate license, made me get my CCIM, and maybe become a student of the game. It was the biggest pain points I think I've had so far. Knock on wood. I don't need more. But it was, and for a while I wouldn't tell anybody about it, right? I'd be like, oh, I'm good. I'm like, it's fine, but we learn so much from our scars that we need to share them because somebody else is struggling with a very similar situation or issue. And that's where I know as well when you coach people you have to share your rawness, share how things have hurt and grow from them and you fail forward.
Yeah. I love you said something before we started filming too. You said, when looking at partners, you look at somebody who has different scars than yours.
Yeah.
Uh, and I mean I got two things from that. One is that it's important to have people who have different lessons to share, but also that they have had scars, that they have fallen. And I too think this is important. It's not, I don't want to work with people who've never made a mistake,
Yeah.
never had, because if they haven't, they have not been in the game long enough.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
You don't have enough like experience, butts in the seat experience.
Yes.
And so and then it also it's like to have the falls and the stumbles and to stay in the game is also important, right? So failure is not, for me, not when somebody has a mistake or something does, like a deal bombs, or that failure is quitting.
Yeah.
Failure is not getting back up. Failure is being like, okay, I'm going to take my ball and go home. Like, that's failure. So I think there's so much in that, somebody with different scars who's still in the game, despite
Yeah.
it's not the mistakes. It's if you had the mistake but you learned the lesson, then you're a
Yeah.
much better investor for it.
Yeah. And I think I followed up with, if I didn't, what I usually follow up with is, yeah, I want you to have a different scar, but I also want to know how you show up in that time of trouble, in that time of, oh my gosh, like this tenant's not renewing or they're defaulting, or, because I want to know, are you digging in or are you digging out?
Yeah.
Because you are in it for the long game. I mean, when you enter into a partnership and development, you got to know how that person's going to show up. And if they haven't been in those situations, if they haven't been in those tough situations that they can talk to it, then you're 50-50 of how they really are going to show up. Even if they have them, everybody has integrity when you start the deal. Everybody's amazing when you
Right.
start the deal, right? Everybody is. But there's one of my I would say my favorite investor. I can't say that. One of my repeat investor partners, he doesn't give up, and that's what I love about it. It's like, what about this idea? What about that idea? And sometimes, as you have all those ideas coming at you, you're like, no, not a good one. Okay, we'll take this one. Let's tweak this one. But I'd rather have somebody like that all day long that's like trying to change the game and give me solutions versus somebody who's like already out. Their mindset's gone.
Yeah, they're like, I don't know what to do. I give up. Right.
Yeah, I don't know what to do. Let's just foreclose on it. No, that's not going to happen. Let's figure this out. And that's another thing is because people want you to succeed that are in those deals with you. And a lot of times they're willing to go to bat with you. They just don't know how.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
Oh, I had so many more questions but what? Okay. Um, we're running out of time. So we'll wrap. Before we wrap, we end every episode with our Trinity, which is a brag, a gratitude, and a desire. So tell me, what is your brag? What's one thing you're celebrating right now?
One thing I'm celebrating right now in our real estate development academy, we do weekly calls, and one of the ladies is a subdivision developer, and the city put all this stuff that they wanted on, so it's a whole bunch of additional costs. I'm like, no, we're not spending on this. We went one by one by one by one, and within 45 minutes, we found a way to save her $510,000 on her development. And
Woo-hoo.
yes, like that's what I love about the community. So that would be a brag of, I love being able to help people figure out ways to be more profitable, to make better impacts in their community, and I'm just loving it right now. It's my favorite hour of the week.
So well bragged. What is one thing you are grateful for?
Always my family, and being able to be on this earth and to be a witness for God and for His mission. So that's probably two things I'm grateful for, but definitely.
Love that.
Yeah.
Last but not least, what is one desire?
One desire. My desire is first and foremost to fulfill God's plan for me.
Mm.
And that is where, he's been calling me to launch this real estate development academy for years. I fought him for years on it. And because it's putting yourself out there, right? And we have that mindset of needing to be perfect, which I think that's part of my process. So that desire is to be able to help more people with the Real Estate Development Academy, get out of their heads, start bridging that gap from investing to developing and making impacts in their community.
Mm. Well, so shall your desire be, or so much better than you can imagine.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, Katie, this has been incredible. Thank you so much. Where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about what you're working on?
Yeah, so you can definitely connect with us on social media at the Katie Kim, KATIEKIM, pretty simple. And our website is katiekim.com. So either one of those avenues would be great. We do have our free content that we put out there is knowledge nuggets and money math. And that's really on my heart to make sure people understand financial literacy and how to get involved in the game. So if you're still new to the game, learning, or just want to take it to the next level, make sure you follow us and you'll learn for sure.
I love that. Okay, y'all go check out the Katie Kim or katiekim.com. Now, and for everyone who's watching, listening today, pick one insight from this conversation and take action, whether it's researching, financing, how to networking with a potential partner, seeing their scars, your scars, getting clear on your long-term strategy. Small steps lead to big wins. Real estate isn't just about buildings, it's about impact. So thank you, Katie, for sharing your wisdom with us today. And all of you listening, remember, get real and stay real. See you next time. Bye.
Thank you.